he is.
He's here. Yep, he's here. We've already done checks and all that stuff.
Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special work session of the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education. We are here this evening with Mr. Brad Banasic, who is with us here virtually. Brad is the General Counsel for the Michigan Association of School Boards, and we have arranged to have Brad present to us this evening various topics regarding legal issues as a way to provide an overview of these various topics for the new board members and to provide a good refresher course which we could always use for returning board members. So without further ado, Brad, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, well, I will turn it over to you to begin your presentation.
All right, well, thank you. So, going to give a crash course tonight in Open Meetings Act, Freedom of Information Act, and FERPA. So, a lot of content to cover, but I'm still willing to answer questions. So, however you want to go about that, you can interrupt me or wait till the end. I know we have a hard stop time at 6:55, so I will certainly work towards that and get through the content. And
Brad, can you hear me?
Just barely.
Okay. When you said the title doesn't matter, does that refer to ad hoc as well? Committees?
Can you repeat that? I could not hear the whole question.
When you said the title doesn't necessarily matter, my question is, does that refer to ad hoc committees? Are they held to the same standard as regular committees?
Chair, could you repeat that question? Because I'm having trouble hearing.
Sure. Can you hear me okay, Brad?
Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Tierney she asked the question, does, in your discussion about the function being determinative, not the title, her question was, does that refer to whether it's a standing committee versus an ad hoc committee?
Oh, no. It refers to, I guess, how you title that committee when you're authorizing it with authority. So it would not refer to whether you call it a standing committee or an ad hoc committee. So if you call it a committee for recommending school closures to the board, and then instead of recommending a school closure, it actually makes a decision on which elementary school the district is going to close, then it's performing a governmental function. Even though it was titled as a committee making a recommendation on that single committee. So yeah, whether you call it a standing committee or an ad hoc committee, it really doesn't make any difference in regard to that particular issue.
Thank you.
Okay, getting into the definition and the term meeting, you can see the definition here. It is a convening of a public body which performs presence for the purpose of deliberating or ready decision policy. So the important part of this definition is that it's not limited to decision making. As we looked at that key provision earlier, deliberations by a quorum of the board must take place at an open meeting as well. So that
Sure.
I guess one other point here on text before I open up for questions on this issue. Texting during board meetings could also be problematic. This comes from the Attorney General's guidebook on the Open Meetings Act, where if you're texting a colleague during a meeting, that constitutes a secret deliberation, and that's not permitted in the Open Meetings Act. So, best practice while you're at a board meeting, no electronic communications between board members. At the risk of violating the Open Meetings Act.
Brad, if I may, we have Mr. Storm has a question.
Brad, just a quick question. A lot of the slide content and communication you just shared was specific to emails, and it was good communication, very helpful. A question that I have is related to text messages. Would you mind just providing maybe some more specifics or color around text messages and how your guidance on text messages being exchanged amongst all board members and the superintendent?
Sure. So I know some boards like to have a group chat with their superintendent, and I'm completely fine with that. So let's use the snow day, for example. That, in my opinion, that would be a good device to notify your board. If I'm the superintendent and I have a group chat with my board, before I send out a snow day notice, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm giving you a heads up, I'm calling a snow day today. That's fine. But if one board member responds by saying, well, wait a minute, I think we need to reconsider this. We're getting close to our limit on snow days. It's really not that bad. And then another board member chimes in saying, yes, I agree. I think, maybe the administration should. At that point, to me, that's constituting deliberations by a board. Even though the board's not responsible for going to the snow day and essentially deliberating for a directive outside of a public meeting to advise the administration not to call the snow day. So in my opinion, that would be stepping over the line if you had that type of response when the superintendent just wanted to give the board a heads up that he or she was going to be going to snow day today.
Brett,
Yes, thank you, Brad.
Yeah, we have another question.
I just want to clarify, when you're talking about texting during meetings, that refers amongst colleagues. I sit on another board for the city, and they interpreted that to be texting, period. And I think that for this purpose, it's only texting amongst colleagues. Whereas if, say, a member of the audience texts a question into one of us, that's okay to have that communication between, say, somebody in the audience and the board member. You just can't have it amongst the board members themselves.
I would agree with that. The only kind of caveat to that, and we'll get to FOIA a little bit later, I think that communication would be FOIA if you're emailing during a meeting with a community member on the municipal board.
Correct.
But yeah, I agree with that interpretation. In fact, this interpretation from the Attorney General, it's not an Attorney General opinion. It's not supported by any case law, in my opinion. It's just the best practice from the Attorney General's handbook. So take it for its worth. So I think it's a good best practice. So that's why I put it in my presentations. All right, consensus building process leading to decision making. Again, the requirement that all decisions of the public body must be made at a meeting open to the public. Boards using electronic communications of some board meetings to achieve decision making that could have been achieved in an open meeting, that could result in a violation of the Open Meetings Act. However, you are permitted to canvass your colleagues. Okay, so the example I like to give is when you're having officer elections, and you don't want to nominate someone for an office if they're not going to get elected to that office. As a board member, you can contact your board members individually and say, I would like to nominate Brad for vice president, but I don't want to nominate him if he's not going to get elected. Can I count on your vote if I nominate Brad but you have to be careful. You just keep that information to yourself on a one-on-one basis. You shouldn't be sharing as far as what you've heard from other board members, whether they're going to support your nomination or not, because then that would be creating a constructive quorum that we talked about earlier. All votes should be conducted in the way that the person attending the meeting or reading the minutes can hear how each board member voted. So what this means, you can't have any secret ballots. Ensure that you're conducting your votes in a very transparent way. Now, if all your votes are unanimous, the minutes can say motion passed unanimously. But if you have yay, nay votes, and you have 3 people voting no, 4 people voting yes, it's hard to determine who voted yes, who voted no. It should be clarified during the meeting, which board member voted yes, and which board member voted no, and then the minutes would reflect that as well. This is the point I referred to earlier. You really have to be careful when you're in closed session to stop short of making a decision in closed session. That again violates the Meetings Act. So you deliberate, stopping short, crossing that line in closed session, and making a decision. So you can share your opinions on how you may vote on a matter in open session as a board member, but there shouldn't be any forced practice or a formal procedure for coming to an informal vote in closed session. So you shouldn't have a board member say, well, I think we need to be all on the same page on this issue. Who's going to vote yes to expel the student? You can't do that in closed session. That would constitute a vote in closed session. The only exception to this rule is when you're strategizing for negotiations and you're giving your chief negotiator parameters on upcoming negotiations. You can vote on bargaining objectives during closed session. That essentially is the only exception to this not taking action in a closed session. So a couple years ago, we talked about closed session when I presented to your board. Just going to quickly cover the reasons for going into closed session here. A lot of these are self-explanatory, but are your personnel reasons for going into closed session? I should say 1, personnel reasons for going into closed session. And note, all of these require the individual or the employee or board member to request a closed session. So if the board is going into closed session to address a complaint against another board member, that board member would have to request a closed session, or maybe it's for discipline or termination involving a staff member that is being recommended by the administration. That staff member has to request a closed session in order to meet the closed session to discuss that particular issue. Number 2 involves student discipline. If your board handles expulsions and you have an expulsion that comes before the board, the only way it can be discussed in closed session if it's requested by the parent or the student if the student is 18. I mentioned on the other slide that you can meet closed session for negotiation purposes and adopting bargaining objectives. That's covered by number 3 there. Does not cover individual contracts. That's an important distinction. So a board cannot go into closed session to negotiate a superintendent contract or the contract of another administrator. That has to be discussed in open session. You can go into closed session for the purchase and lease of property, but not selling your property. attorney-client and ethical agency. Number 7, this is your attorney-client privilege exception. Reviewing material exempt by state and federal statute. FOIA exempts attorney-client privilege documents from disclosure under FOIA. Because that document is preempted from disclosure, can be taken into closed session. So that's why number 7 covers attorney-client privilege documents. And then lastly, we can go into closed session with security planning to address existing threats or prevent potential threats. Those are your closed meeting exceptions. Takes us to public attendance at meetings. 2 quick issues I want to cover here. First, disorderly conduct at meetings. If you have disorderly individuals at a board meeting, those individuals can be removed. So, based on 2 sections of the law. The first one here is from the Open Meetings Act, where you can exclude someone from a meeting if they breach the peace actually committed at that meeting. And then the next one here, section 18 of the school code, you can order to have someone ordered to be withdrawn from a meeting with the assistance of law enforcement after they receive proper notice. So when I suggest, obviously you want to get law enforcement involved in having someone removed from a meeting, but you want to get them a warning as well, at least multiple warnings before they're at that particular meeting. But you could not prohibit the person from coming to the next meeting. Note that under the Open Meetings Act, it has to be in breach of peace at that meeting. The only way you can prohibit someone from future meetings would be a court order that you can get that person from attending the meeting. And you can see what constitutes a breach of peace here. It's a pretty high standard. Seriously disruptive conduct involving abusive, disorderly, dangerous, aggressive, provocative speech, intending to threaten or incite violence. Well beyond acceptable behavior in civil society. So there's a court case that said someone simply not following a public comment rule does not constitute a breach of peace. So, pretty high standard for removing someone from a court meeting when it comes to breaching the peace of that meeting. Brings us to public comment. I don't have time to go through all the municipal rules, but just know that rules that facilitate public comment must be established and reported by the public body. Generally, reported means you're putting those rules in your bylaws. The filter that you use in developing a rule is that the rule must be reasonable, flexible, and written in a way that encourages public comment. And then you have to be careful of free speech rights as well. In administering public comment, the First Amendment rule is you can't discriminate based on viewpoint. Okay? If you're discriminating on a political viewpoint, a negative viewpoint, that's a problem. And you're likely going to be faced with a First Amendment violation. So I covered some quick issues there. Let me cover enforcement and penalties, and then if there's any other moment questions, I'll cover them. So you see the enforcement penalties under the Open Meetings Act. 2 ways to be sued under Open, or I guess 2 ways that the Open Meetings Act is enforced is another way to put it. One is through the courts. Someone can file a civil claim. That means that someone intentionally violated an act. That person's personally liable for civil damages. But the big penalty is, if that person wins, you're paying the other side lawsuit fees. So the other side's attorney's fees. And that could be $50,000, $100,000. I see Open Meetings Act cases that reach the level of $300,000 attorney's fees. So that's the huge penalty that a municipality is paying when it violates the Open Meetings Act. And then there are criminal penalties
questions?
Right?
No, we're good.
Let's go ahead and so the general requirement here, again, we're going to take a look at some definitions involved in this requirement. Providing the public body FOIA coordinator with a written request that describes that public record sufficiently, enabling the public body to find a public record person that brings the special copy or receive copies of that requested record. So what are some of those definitions of the terms in that general requirement? What is a written request? Writing that asks for information, including a writing transmitted by electronic communications. This is one I've been enforcing quite frequently when I get questions from member districts. You know, this is when you receive the odd FOIA request from an entity that you never heard of. Well, that FOIA request must include the individual's full name, mailing address, and a phone number or email address. That mailing address must meet U.S. Postal Code standards. And if it doesn't, you deny that request. So I've advised multiple FOIA coordinators that you want to make sure that that requester, full name, mailing address, phone number, or email address, and that request, if they don't, then the request will be denied. Public record, this is significant in terms of whether your emails or your texts or any other type of communication of the board member could be subject to FOIA. And you see the definition: writing, prepared, owned, used, and possession, retained by a public body in the form of an official function. And we'll get into what constitutes a public body under FOIA, which is a little bit different than the Open Meetings Act. And we see the FOIA coordinator. This starts out as your superintendent, and then your superintendent can delegate other FOIA coordinating responsibilities to other individuals. And see it at the third bullet point here. And then it's also the coordinator should be identified in the district's FOIA procedures and guidelines. So this is a relatively new requirement. This implements FOIA. And if your district is requiring fees to process FOIA requests, your FOIA procedures and guidelines must be posted on your website. And they must be publicly available. And providing 3 copies of that request as well. So if you don't have FOIA procedures and guidelines on your website, you could not charge any fees for processing the FOIA request. And then in addition to the FOIA guidelines and procedures, there needs to be a publicly accessible public summary of FOIA and how your school district complies with FOIA. And you can see what that entails on this slide. So, public body, and the definition of a public body, it actually includes school district. We had the public body definition for one other, specifically the school board, but by definition, it includes here, school district is specifically identified in the definition of a public body. But then the Supreme Court kind of took it a step further by saying that an office of a school board member is a public body for the purposes of FOIA. So not only is the entity, the school board entity, a public body, individual board members of that have an office, not elected office, but that office or position, but the elected office of the board, that constitutes a public body as well, which means that individual board members are subject to the Freedom of Information Act if they are creating or maintaining public records. Now, does a FOIA request have to be in writing? No, but it's the best practice to require that FOIA request to be in writing. That's what I thought, that's what I advise. So if the FOIA coordinator receives a verbal request, the best response is please put that FOIA request in writing. Personal notes taken by board members at a meeting, are they public records? There's actually a court case on this. If you're only keeping those notes for your own personal resource, okay, you want to refer to those notes later, and you're not sharing them with anyone else, then they're not public records under the Freedom of Information. But, the recording secretary, the individual non-tax board members, are they subject to FOIA? We kind of touched upon this already. If they're prepared to be possessed by the board member in the performance of an official function relating to the school board, yes, those type of communications would be subject to FOIA. However, if they're just simply personal emails received by school staff, not public record, just because they're captured in the school district's computer system. So what FOIA looks at is not how the emails were sent or received or maintained. FOIA looks at the content of the emails. Any questions so far on FOIA and the content that we've covered?
I don't think so. Nope.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, we're good.
Okay, sounds good. Public body not required to create a record or summarize a record. So if someone makes a request for information, the school district must provide all the records that would satisfy that information request. Right? And if a record doesn't exist, the district must now respond to that FOIA request. What you do with the response, you actually certify that public record as identified in the request does not exist. So you're testing that public record not existing. As I mentioned, an information request is a legitimate request as long as those records exist that can satisfy that information request. How do you respond to a FOIA? Important to distinguish between responding and providing the public records. You're required to respond within 5 business days unless notice is provided that the 10 additional business days are being used to respond to that request. So business days got calendar days. Business days don't include weekends and holidays. Business days do include break days. So breaks during Christmas break and summer break and spring break, those are considered to be business days for purposes of FOIA. And then you see how those days are computed on the last 2 bullet points. You exclude the first day and and the last day is so the receipt day shall be counted as day 0. And then if it's received by email, it's not received by the FOIA coordinator until the day after that electronic transmission was made. So how do you respond? You either grant the request, and it's important in granting the request, you're not providing the records when you grant the request. You're including a non-binding best efforts estimate regarding the time frame on when those records will be provided. More than requests can be denied, more than requests can be denied or granted in part. And then lastly, if you want to extend the 5 business days, you can provide notice that you're using the 10 business days. And that's not requesting to use the 10 additional business days. You have the right to do that as a school district. You're issuing notice that yes, we are taking advantage of those 10 additional business days to respond to the request. And you can see what that entails. They're issuing the notice, extending the response. In that notice must include the date the request was received, the reason for the extension. Generally can be any reason. Records are at another location. The district needs to consult with the council or the location being, and then the date by which the response will be issued. Again, FOIA does not impose a specific time frame when you must provide those records. So, you get the FOIA request, you say you're using the 10 business day exception. So after the 15 business days, are you required to provide the records? No. At that point, you're just responding to the request, either granting it, denying it, granting in part, or denying in part. And then in that response, you indicate the best efforts estimate on when those records will be provided. These are exempt from FOIA. Okay? You balance the public interest in disclosure against the right of individual personal privacy. So, put this in a school district context. Evaluations of staff members, complaints about staff members, discipline records involving staff members. That's not privacy. That's not intimate or embarrassing private information about a person's private life. That's public life involving the school staff positions. So those records are not of a personal nature. Now, a school employee's home address and telephone number, that is personal information, and that could be redacted from a FOIA request. Some other records exempt from disclosure, records that disclosure violate another statute. Example would be closed session minutes, test questions and answers, scoring keys. So you can't have a wiseacre student making a FOIA request for the answers to the teacher's exam that they've used for multiple years. That would be exempt from FOIA. Records having disclosed a social security number, records of the school district security measure. Actually, that makes sense. You want to make sure that the bad folks out there don't get your sensitive security information. Here's the attorney-client privilege exemption we looked at earlier. So it has to be a written document that is because it's subject to FOIA. For exempt from FOIA. The next one is the frank communications exemption. This one is one of the more complicated exceptions to apply. You have communication with a public body of an advisory nature, or more than purely factual, preliminary to final determination, and then you balance the interest involved. The exemption does not apply if you're unable to show that the public interest is encouraging friendly communications is outweighed by the community's interest in having access to that information. So that's called the frank communication exemption. And then records that would violate FERPA is we're talking about FERPA in bed. So some allowable charges, you see what the charges are can entail under FOIA, so what you can charge for a FOIA request. Labor costs, part of that list, you're charging at the hourly rate equal to the fully paid staff member capable of searching, retrieving, and examining the information sought by the requester. This applies to both searching for the records and separating and deleting exempt information from not exempt information. And you're required to charge this rate regardless of when that staff member is able to perform that task on that day. The first bullet point is kind of an unusual standard. Generally, if it's one of those any and all requests for information, it's going to be this standard. That's going to come in on the high cost of the district, so certainly can charge for the labor involved. But if it's simply, I make a FOIA request for someone's evaluation in their personnel file, labor should be charged for that. And that's as easy as just going to the individual personnel file, pulling out the evaluation, making a copy of it, and then providing it. So in that case, labor costs would not be an unreasonable cost for the district. And you can include overtime wages if the individual stipulates that in the request. French benefit multipliers are being added to partially cover the cost of individuals conducting the searches and separation of exempt and non-exempt. However, you cannot charge any more than the actual benefit cost. That's up to 50% of the cost that's being charged to process the request. It actually can go up to 100% if someone makes a request for information on your website and they're notified that it's on the website. You don't have to make a FOIA request, but they demand that you still produce that information. Then you can multiply that charge by 100%. Waivers and discounts generally will apply to non-profit making requests or someone who's indigent in receiving loan assistance. They do have to provide evidence that they're receiving discount, and then the 50/50 rule. You can request a deposit up front. If the cost exceeds $50, then you can charge 50% as a deposit, and you do not have to process that request until the deposit. Compare that the other way around. If it's less than $50, you have to start. You have to process the request and produce it, and then they would pay the $45 if it's less than 50 when the records have been produced. But if it's more than 50, you can request a 50% deposit. Right. That brings us to FERPA. Got 10 minutes to cover FERPA here.
What's on five?
Excuse me, 5 minutes.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes, Brad. Yeah.
Covers education records. And this is, as long as you're receiving federal dollars, you're subject to FERPA enforced by the Student Privacy Office. Parents have the right to access their child's records, the right to seek that education records to be amended, and have control over the disclosure of personally identifiable information. And the opportunity to inspect and review their child's education record within 45 days of receipt of the request. Not necessarily receive a copy of their education record, just to inspect and review. So unless something fits into an exception, you're prohibited as a district from sharing personally identifiable information with a third party without consent from the parent. But there are a number of exceptions that allow records to be shared without consent. So you see how an education record is defined. Does not include sole possession notes. So if you have a teacher that keeps their own personal notes on a student, that's not an education record, and a parent would not have access to that personal note. The big issue relating to security videos and whether those security videos are considered education records under FERPA. You look at it, the video maintained by the school administration, is it directly related to students involved in an incident? Is the video used to discipline the students? So if it only includes footage of a single student vandalizing school property, for example, that video is clearly an education record under FERPA. Then the parent has the right to inspect and review that video. If it captures images of multiple students involved in an incident, allows a parent to inspect and review, be informed of only the specific information about his or her child. Well, how do you do that? Well, if you can segregate and redact a portion of the video to only identify the parent's child, then you do that. But if you can't do that without destroying the record, then a parent may inspect and review the record even though it contains information relating to other students. So attempt to blur the faces of other students in video or segregate the video by showing only a time period that portrays an individual student. If you can't do that, then unedited footage can be reviewed by a parent, and they can actually request a copy of that video as well under FOIA. The Student Privacy Office has confirmed that FERPA allows the district to non-consensually disclose copies of education records to parents that they otherwise have a right to inspect under FERPA. Some exceptions for written consent. Transferring records where a student is transferring. If the student is requesting financial aid, that may be provided to the entity associated with that financial aid. Third parties conducting audits for purposes of federal state funding. School officials with legitimate educational interests. This would involve school board members. This is the model notification of rights produced by the Student Privacy Office. Whereas a school official for the report. Another one that comes up frequently, health and safety emergencies involving school districts. If law enforcement needs to see in education records to minimize a threat, they have a right to that. That exception. Then you have directory information. You can disclose this without consent. This is the non-invasive information. You determine what type of directory information, what type of information is directory information in your FERPA notice. And then you notify parents of that. They have the right to opt out of directory information. So you have to keep track of who's opting out. And then lastly, military access directory information. They have a right to request it. And the only way they don't get it is if the parents have opted out of disclosure to military personnel. That's it. 6:55.
Right on the nose.
So,
Anybody
yeah,
questions?
Probably the best way for any questions, shoot me an email, give me a call. I'd be happy to assist. Hopefully you can get a copy of this. I'm more than happy. I did provide a copy to Matt and Star, so they can make copies for you as a resource. If you have any questions.
Brad, if you don't mind, we do have a couple of quick questions. You want to go first, Andy?
You referenced directories, Brad. This is Andy Storm. And I saw the reference to the military recruiters. A question I have, and we've actually discussed this as a board over the last few years. In Brighton, we have a lot of athletic programs and successful athletic programs. And often we work with the district, the teams work with third parties. And a question that I have is, are we as a district required to get parental consent before releasing personal information about student athletes to third parties? Or through the prism of what you just referenced about directory information, does the district have the right to release directories to third parties affiliated with different athletic programs or services?
So generally, and without seeing your policy on what you identify as directory information, participating in extracurricular activities is generally considered to be directory information. So that allows the school district to put out a program on who's on the athletic team, or to recognize the athletic achievements of them. So again, I qualify it by saying I don't know how you district identify directory information, but that is generally common that students who participate in sports, their participation is considered to be directory.
It may be just a clarifying comment. I 100% agree with, like, for example, rosters and all, they're all public on websites that you can access. I guess I was specifically referring to their personal contact information, such as an email or parents, stuff like that, home address, where you get letters in the mail.
Yeah, again, I think that would be if your directory information goes into that type of detail. Name, address, or telephone number of the students. Some districts permit it, others don't.
Okay,
That would
well,
be dictated by your policy.
thank you.
I think we have one more. Alicia?
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I think if the third party is a contract of the district, they sit in the district's, they get this information automatically because the district has given them public access, they are considered part of the district. So if they contract, say, with an athletic trainer to provide services to the student, the athletic trainer sits in the position of the district because they're contracted by the district. So they do all
Yeah,
automatically get that information.
Who constitutes a school official? As we saw on that one slide, you can see this includes a person or company who the school has contracted to perform special tasks, such as attorney, audit, so, it can be third parties, but again, if you want your school official, permission to cover that person if they're receiving that type of information outside of receiving directory information.
And then my question is, and this doesn't apply to us necessarily as a board, other than we might want to have some policies that deal with this. The Mackinac Center case that recently determined that a teacher is not a public body under FOIA. So
Yes.
that wasn't mentioned there, but I'm thinking as a district, we might want policies that say anything they are teaching curriculum wise needs to be provided to us as a board, therefore then making that subject to FOIA.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any boards adopting policies on that. That case is now being decided. I believe it had been appealed to the Michigan Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court declined to intervene, so it's now settled law at the moment.
I'm sorry.
The Supreme Court declined to intervene, so it is currently settled law. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, the Court of Appeals decision would be, that is a published case. I know at one point it wasn't published, and it had been published, that it would be binding precedent where, yeah, the teacher doesn't constitute a public body. And I guess, I'll defer to a district if it wants to get that detailed in its policies and procedures, or to simply rely on the FOIA coordinator to know that, teachers aren't considered to be public bodies for purposes of FOIA. Is that it?
Okay, that's it. Well, Brad, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We very much appreciate it. This has been very helpful and insightful. Okay, have a great night. All right, and for everyone that's just arriving, we've been conducting a workshop here for the past hour. We're just going to take about a 5-minute break, so we'll get started about 7:05, and then we will convene the meeting at that point. Thank you.
I pull it up on your page. I'm probably the reason why I'm like, dumb. I'm gonna try.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. I'm happy to announce that this evening we are starting a new tradition. We have decided that it would be great if we could have some of our students lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of our meetings. And so tonight is the first such occasion. I understand that we have some friends from Hawkins with us this evening, and it looks like they're ready to lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone is ready, come on up, and we'll be happy to get started here. Anytime you guys want it ready. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Way to go, guys. Thank you. All right, Ms. Ackermeyer, roll call, please.
Mrs. Irving. Present. Mrs. Tierney.
Here.
Mr. Storm.
Present.
Mr. Stahl.
Here.
Dr. Krebs.
Here.
Mrs. Marks.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here. Moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Support.
Moved by Ms. Marks, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to the superintendent report. Dr. Outlaw.
Okay, so this is also going to be another first for us. I know that the district has done this in the past. I did this in a previous district where I was superintendent, but we're going to try something new, and we're going to highlight one school district, or not one school within the district each month. We're going to call it a school showcase, and they're going to bring forward something exciting going on in their building, and we'll join in the celebration of something great about this school district. So Hawkins Elementary is going to be our test pilot here, and they're going to lead the way for us. And we have some folks that are going to come forward to talk to us about the Huddles program at the elementary level. So here's Principal Chris McAuliffe.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. I couldn't be prouder to have this group here tonight. There are amazing things going on at Hawkins. I wish I could take credit for that, but the fact is we just have the most amazing group of young, vibrant, excited teachers. And from that, we've got all of these student leaders. So the leadership in our building is just incredible. There's so many things that in the past might have been a task to take on for a building, and these guys jump in and do it like it was second nature. So I have Kim Etheridge and Alyssa Hoy, two of my very young new teachers that are here tonight. And huddles are something that have been around for a while, but through COVID and everything, it kind of went away, came back in different forms. It's a lot of work. These two jumped in and took it over and made it something that was doable for everybody, something the teachers love, the kids love. Everybody in our building does it, from custodians to office staff to kitchen staff, teachers, paras, EAs, everybody. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to these two incredible young ladies, and then some of our students are going to share with you what we do in huddles. So Kim and Alyssa.
Well, my name is Alyssa Hoy. This is my third year being a second grade teacher at Hawkins. This is my co-teacher, another second grade teacher.
Yeah, I'm Kim Etheridge, and we both jumped at the opportunity. Like Chris said, we were really excited to help with huddles and help the teachers feel like they're comfortable doing it. The kids love it. And like he said, like the people that do it are not only just classroom teachers, it's the EAs, it's the lunch ladies. It's so many. It's so great that the kids have the opportunity to see other faces throughout the day. It's really a blessing.
It's a way for our school to be all inclusive together. So we have anywhere from our kindergartners all the way to our fourth graders. We have about 15 students per teacher or lunch staff or principal or custodian per group. We meet for about a half hour, 35 minutes. And this is one of our slideshows. This is our November one. So we focus on dogs, and each month we focus on a certain letter of dogs, and we create a lesson plan and kind of showcase either determination, optimism, generosity, and solidarity, and how we can not only teach it in like a school setting or a classroom, but how they can expose it outside the classroom as well. So
Yeah, so our amazing Hawkins students are going to share a little bit more of what DOG stands for and some of their favorite parts.
We have 32 huddles groups that are led by various teachers and staff members. Each group has students from kindergarten to fourth grade. Our huddles start with a feeling check-in, followed by a story and ending with a game. My huddles group teacher is Miss Torque, who is the STEAM teacher. My favorite part of huddles is the fun games we get to play with each other.
In huddles, I learned how to be determined and not to give up. I use this at school to be a good student and learn everything I can. This will help me in my goal to be an engineer. Outside of school, I use determination to help me reach my goal of making the boys' gymnastics team. I need to learn several skills, and I continue to practice and learn them without giving up or being frustrated.
In huddles, I learned how to be optimistic, which means looking for the good things and hoping for the best, even when things are hard. It's like wearing happy glasses to see the world brighter way. For example, when I take a math test and may not feel confident, I tell myself to try my best.
In huddles, we learned about generosity and being kind and generous to others.
For example, the animal drive. We bought and collected dog and cat toys and other needs.
And we gave all the donations to the Humane Society of Huron Valley.
For all the animals that need a helping hand, or should I say paw.
In huddles, I learned that solidarity means working together as a team. An example of this is when
I am in Miss Etheridge's class during math time, and we have partner games or work on math boxes together with partners. We have to show teamwork by working together and being a good helper.
In huddles, we sometimes get to play games. Today, we wanted to teach you one of the games we learned to play about determination. On the count of 3, you pick one of the following poses: bow, snake, or gorilla. If you pick the same pose as your huddle teacher, you're out. The last one standing is the winner of that round.
So we actually wanted to play this game with all of you. So if you'll stand up, it's kind of like Simon says almost. Mackenzie is going to be our leader. So there's 3 poses. You have gorilla. So you just go like that.
I feel like you guys should practice it. Gorilla.
There you go. You have bowls. So you put your bowls up, and then snake looks like this. So on the count of 3, Mackenzie will count down and go 3, 2, 1. She's going to do a pose. If any of you do the same pose as her, you have to sit down. You are out.
I will be
That's okay.
watching.
It's more fun. All right, ready, Mackenzie? We'll do a trial run real quick. This will be practice. Ready?
3, 2, 1.
Oh.
All right, now we're starting the wheel.
All right,
Ready, go. 3, 2, 1.
All right, if you miss the ball, you're out. All right, ready?
Ready, 3, 2, 1. All snakes are out.
All right, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Oh.
Out. Ready, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, we've got a few more left, all right?
3, 2, 1. Oh, snakes are out.
All right.
2 left.
Oh, 3 left.
3, okay.
Oh, we got to.
3, 2, 1.
We got 2.
We will call them our witnesses. It wasn't written that the Hawkins game tonight. Thank you very much, board.
So that's how we would end our huddles.
All right. Thank you so much, Hawkins. Appreciate everybody being here. Students, great job. That was wonderful. Thank you for leading the way. Next up, we have 2 shining stars this evening. So, Mr. Rudolph, who is going to be doing the first one for Nick Shaw? Fantastic. All right. Mrs. Mitty is going to come forward and honor our first person.
Hi, I'm Christina Mitty. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Hilton Elementary, and I nominated Nick Shaw. He is a Scranton student. He is my teammate Corey Shaw's grandson, and he has been a fantastic help to me in my classroom. I have a new student who came maybe, I don't know, late fall, from Mexico, and did not know any English, and I only know Spanish from like 1997, so it's been a very long time. And Nick has come every day, probably at least a half an hour a day, and has worked with her with flashcards and conversation, board games, talking about the culture, and has been a great communicator with me, you know, of anything that she was concerned about or questions that she had. And it's been a great way to acclimate her to Brighton, and now they formed a friendship, and it's so sweet. She's gotten to know Corey really well too, and I really think it has helped her feel like a part of the community in the school, and it's just been absolutely wonderful, and I could not have done it without his help. So that's why I nominated him. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, Nick, here we go. Hold up your
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Okay, we got one more. Got one more here.
Good job. Okay, and next up, I'm going to invite forward Ms. Evans and Mr. Fernandez to talk about an outstanding orchestra student.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for making this opportunity. My name is Stephen Fernandez. I teach orchestra at Maltby Intermediate School and now Brighton High School. We started orchestra 8 years ago. This is our 8th year. And to give you some perspective, our very first 5th grade class are now in their senior year, though we've had a few other seniors come through. And we are here tonight to honor Mallory Hopka. And Mrs. Evans will tell you a little bit more about her specific achievements, but I just want to say that as a Maltby student for 2 years, she was somebody who would never back down from a challenge and was always open to all of the little extra proddings that I could find in our 5th and 6th grade curriculum. So it's no surprise to me that she's here tonight being honored for what Mrs. Evans is about to tell you guys about.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. I'm Jennifer Evans. I am the director of orchestras and bands at Scranton Middle School. This is my 21st year teaching band and in my 4th year of teaching the orchestras. It's like hard to talk about Mallory. I know she is a very humble student and the spotlight is usually never on Mallory. Just because she loves to be a part of the big group. But we have a very special reason why we're here tonight. Last October, just under 2,700 students across the state of Michigan auditioned for the opportunity to perform in one of the 5 honors ensembles at the Michigan Music Conference in Grand Rapids just a couple of weeks ago. The honors ensembles are sponsored by the Michigan School Band and Orchestra Association. Mallory, a Scranton Middle School violist, was chosen to perform in the 24-25 Michigan School Band and Orchestra Association Middle School Honors Orchestra. Basically a really cool group. That's a lot of words. Only the top performers for each instrument were selected out of over almost 2,700 kids, middle school and high school. Those students then had the opportunity to rehearse with esteemed conductors for 2 days before performing on Saturday, January 25th at the Michigan Music Conference. Mallory is our very first in 8 years, very first Brighton Orchestra student to be selected and perform as a member of this elite group of musicians from across the state. When I say that you're looking at the best of the best, she is the best of the best. Additionally, because it wasn't good enough to just be the first Brighton Orchestra student, she earned first chair for the viola section and sat there and had a really awesome solo that I'm just going to play a quick snippet from my phone. The event was held January 25th. Her proud parents went out there as well to Grand Rapids. Christy Hopka, who's also an employee in our district, Michael Hopka, who's her dad. The orchestra had 71 members, the middle school orchestra. So almost 2,700 kids in 5 groups. The orchestra had 71 kids. Mallory got chosen for a really awesome solo. So if you know George Gershwin, or if you don't, it's okay. We'll educate you. We'll educate you on that. George Gershwin had a really famous song, Rhapsody in Blue. And it was first for piano. Then, of course, it went to band and had a clarinet solo at the beginning for us esteemed clarinet players. And then Michael Hopkins from U of M arranged this piece for orchestra. And this was the piece that he selected as well. And Mallory, he wrote it for a viola soloist. And lo and behold, Mallory was working on it. We talked about it. And then Michael decided to add 2 more octaves to the solo because it's Mallory. So we're going to add 2 more octaves to the solo and make it really, really awesome. So if you're familiar with the song, it starts out with a long glissando, starts in a very long low note, goes all the way up. It's a very difficult thing to do. And so I'm just going to play you a little snippet from my phone. It's not going to do it justice, but it'll give you goosebumps. And if it doesn't, again, come see me. I'll tell you how. Okay. Sorry. yeah, just that little, oh. Okay, there's nothing better as a musician. And again, please come see us. Like we'll just share it all with you. But we are just so proud of Mallory. And again, she's just the most humble student. She will never take credit for anything because she understands what it's like to be part of the team and to create that sound as a full ensemble. I credit Mr. Fernandez with instilling that in his kids at the 5-6 level. I mean, they come to me at Scranton as a band teacher teaching orchestra and know a great deal of things, but they also know how to be outstanding kids and outstanding musicians. And I'm just so honored and privileged that I got the opportunity to experience 2 years with Mallory. She has more opportunities coming along with 3 other Scranton string students. She was selected based on nominations that were written. No auditions, but written. She will be playing with the Civic Youth Ensemble with the DSO in April. She's also playing an honors day with them as well. So to say that this student is going places is an understatement. The support of her family, the support of the community, the support of Mr. Fernandez. He's lucky he gets her again next year. And I have to say goodbye, but just an outstanding, outstanding honor that we bestowed to Mallory. Congratulations, Mallory.
All right. And once again, congratulations, Mallory. What an outstanding achievement. We're extremely proud of you. And I personally am very thrilled to see this because one of the first things that I was able to do when I joined the board 8 years ago was to vote to approve the orchestra program. So here we are. It's wonderful to see. So, and to Nick, I don't know if he's still here yet or not, but again, thank you for just going the extra mile and displaying your kindness and your leadership and what an outstanding young man you are. And we're very proud of all that you've done as well. So thank you very much. All right, so that concludes the superintendent report, moves us to the call to the public. If there is anyone here who would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. We ask that you fill out a index card at the rear of the room, place it in the box to the left of Dr. Mosier. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Dr. Krebs will be keeping time. When you have 30 seconds left in your allotted time, she will show you the yellow card, which means you have 30 seconds left. And when your time is up, she will indicate that it is up with the red card. So I have one card. Jenny Sobolewski.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Sobolewski. I live in Pinckney, but our whole life happens here in Brighton. I am a 4th grade teacher at Spencer. I am the mom of 4, eventually 5 Spencer and Scranton and Maltby kids. So we are in Brighton for a length of time. And I'm also my new position in the Brighton Education Association is that of chief negotiator. And so I'm looking forward to that connection that I'll get to make with you. I see some new faces on the board. I see faces that have been here and working with us. And I see a lot of faces of people who have talked the talk and walked the walk for our students for years. And I really appreciate you guys. I see Katie, like you have been in the trenches with us. So I know that you guys know what's best for kids and that that's what you're constantly fighting for. I am here to speak about I'm going to mention a little bit about Spencer, but I also see Maltby teachers who have rocked it for my own children and who I've worked with as colleagues. And then all of my fellow BEA members who I saw in and out of here serving other schools. What I'm going to say about Spencer is not unique to my building. This is what you see across Brighton area schools. We at Spencer, under the leadership of Chelsea Boyd, are full of innovators, and I work with creative people who are masters of connection. And so everything I do for this district, every part of it, I am so proud to say that we are Brighton. And I know that you can say the same as board members. And a turn of conversation, I am excited as an educator that Michigan has recently passed 2 laws addressing the needs of students who struggle with dyslexia and approaching reading in a different way. And I know that with that conversation, we as a district are looking at curriculum that can be supportive of all of our students. I know that we are already being proactive and piloting new curriculum, trying to decide what is going to best serve the needs of our students. And I'm so glad we're doing that. I'm so glad that we're taking the risk and taking those steps to seek out what's best for our students. I do hope that we as Brighton are not going to jump the gun on that. I hope that we are willing to, you never take the first quote of the contractor that comes in, right? You always see what other quotes you can get. And so I hope that we will also look at some other curriculums and then not jump the gun. The state is going to release a list in January of 2026. And so I think it behooves the district to go slow to go fast once we get the right curriculum under our belts. So as you guys look into those conversations and are working with Dr. Mosier on that information, I hope that we'll consider not jumping into something that we might then have to shift come January. But I appreciate you guys so much for your time and your dedication and the hard work that you do. And I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no more cards, that closes the call to the public and moves us into for action. Item A, the meeting minutes of January 27, 2025. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Moved by Mr. Storm, supported by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to the Human Resources Report. Mr. Anastasov.
All right, good evening. So I got you the human resource report right before this meeting. So the only one on there today, as I discussed last time, is replacing or filling the vacancy at the high school for the general ed social worker. So this will be a Brighton hire. We do also have other social workers in the district, but the majority of them that work with special ed are employees of the LESA that work for us. So this will be a Brighton employee. So we're recommending Jennifer Harper today. She actually comes with us for 27 years of mental health experience, 26 of those in Lenawee County. She, for the past year and a half, couple years, have actually been working with LESA as their mental health specialist. And we've had the pleasure of working with her. She's been stationed at the high school for this 24-25 school year, working as that mental health specialist through LESA, but she got to know the building individuals well, which obviously led into a good opportunity for her to apply for the social work position that was recently vacated by a retirement.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the Human Resources Report as presented? Moved by Dr. Krebs.
Support.
Support by Ms. Marks. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Welcome to Ms. Harper as being now official with Brighton as opposed to her previous position with LESA. All right, that moves us to item C, the MASB Board of Directors. In the packet is the information regarding the candidates. We have to vote as a member representative for the director that we will be voting for the MASB Region 7, which is the region that we are located in. There are 3 candidates who have thrown their hat in the ring. Guillermo Lopez, who is the incumbent for this position, Corey McLaughlin, and Jack Temsey. Those are the 3 candidates. So do we have a motion to support one of those three candidates?
I'll make a motion to support Corey McLaughlin for the position.
All right, we have a motion to support Mr. McLaughlin. We have a second by Mr. Storm. Any discussion? What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stahl. Okay. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. All right, that concludes the for action portion of our agenda and moves us into for future action. Item A is the first day of school topic. Dr. Outlaw?
Okay, we've had some dialogue on this. Now it is for future action. This is for the board to make decisions. We have two options that have been shared in newsletters. We've done some surveys. And our two choices that we're presenting to the board gets to choose the first day of school is either our traditional, which would be keeping with what we've done the last few years. That's starting the day after Labor Day, which would be September 2nd. The other option is one that has been requested for our consideration by the county. The county is working to align the school districts across the county to a closer start date. A primary reason has to do with shared programming, early college, career technical education programs, dual enrollment programs. We have about 150 students that participate in those at the high school level. County has asked that all of the school districts consider that move. I know that Heartland and Howell have traditionally started quite a bit earlier, have had some dialogue around this as well, and I believe they're going to be pretty close to that date. And then this is a conversation for the board. For a frame of reference on this would be 4 days early. It would start on August 25th. There would be 4 days of school prior to Labor Day with this request from the county. The Friday would be off before Labor Day, and obviously Labor Day would be off as well. How would that impact us? The end of the first semester would be a week earlier. So high school exams would probably be approximately 15th, 16th of January. Obviously, the contract has to be negotiated, but I'm just carrying our current one forward for a frame of reference, and that would have us out a week earlier. We'd probably end school somewhere around, I believe it was like January or June 5th or 6th, somewhere in that range. So that's what I have to share with you for discussion.
These would be full days, correct? We would not be starting with half days. We would start, if we moved early, it would start as a full day as we've done traditionally in the past.
So the day one would be a full day.
Right.
And then after that, it would be negotiated.
Correct,
And we've traditionally just started with full days here in the Brighton area schools. Yes.
How is this going to impact some of the activities like football, the other sports, fall sports, band, things like that?
Yeah, it would have no impact on anything related to extracurriculars. The sports season starts, I think it's approximately August 12th, and games start, it doesn't matter what the school district decides to do. So zero impact on extracurriculars.
I know that band camp, I don't know, what,
It's August 18th through 23rd, which means we would start school 2 days after getting back from band camp, so we would miss PD. And students would be starting school 2 days after band camp. We don't get back to the 23rd.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that's contracted already.
Just wondering if the administration has solicited any input from teachers or the educators in our district on their preference? Do we know generally how the teachers are feeling about when to start?
Yeah, I did have a conversation with Mr. Good, the BEA president, and he said that the preference of the BEA would be to start after Labor Day. And that's what he shared. And I don't think I'm sharing something out of confidence with him. He did express that his members, they had done a poll on that. We did have a survey that we did to include everybody, anybody who filled that out. We had 179 people that filled that out. Obviously, it went out to about 10,000 people. But in that survey, about 2/3 of people opted for staying after Labor Day, the post-Labor Day start. And we had another third that thought the 25th would be a better start date. So, but 179 people filled that out. So that was available to everybody. The newsletters go to students as well as parents and staff. So.
Are we allowed to do an informal poll with the teachers that are here? Is that against the rules? Is that,
I personally would love to keep it starting after Labor Day.
see a lot of head nodding?
Because it just pushes everything back, right? Like, so we start the 20th, we start on the 25th, that means the teachers have to start coming in the week before. It's mandatory for 2 days of PD, which means I'm then back in my room the week before that. So like just on my own time, right? But it just pushes, you're in school for August then.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
That's my 2 cents. I would agree. For what it's worth.
Thank you.
There's a couple points I just want to bring up. I think I've talked to some of you individually about, but I want to make sure we're considering. One, more and more districts are getting the waiver to start before Labor Day. In everything I've seen will show we will be the outlier in Livingston County. Everybody else in Livingston County will start prior to Labor Day. So we would be if we waited, we would be the only district waiting. Second is our AP testing. AP testing is done the exact same day all over the country. We're already giving up weeks to Heartland and Howell as far as our kids getting instruction. We're giving up 5 weeks to those schools in the South. So our kids are at a disadvantage of getting 5. So let's say schools in Georgia that start August 1, our kids get 5 weeks less instruction before that AP test. So our high flyer students taking AP classes are definitely at a disadvantage the later we start. And then finally, camps and things. I saw a lot of conflicts last year with camps that were starting before our school got out. And so our kids were missing out on some of those extracurricular activities. And if we're the only district starting after Labor Day, I suspect many of those camps that are not school district specific, our kids will at least miss out on a week of that type of extracurricular activity.
Any other comments, discussion? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ken.
Could you remind me exactly how it works right now? Because I'm married to a different district and I don't know if she's the same or not. And I'm curious. How are we doing it right now? When would they come back if everything stays the
Yeah,
same?
so currently students for the last 5 years, my 5th year in the district, every year we have started the day after Labor Day. So that'd be the Tuesday after Labor Day, which is actually the official state law. There's waivers, and Mrs. Urban's correct that there's a high volume of districts that have gone that direction. That number keeps growing. But we have started the day after Labor Day. Our staff has typically started the Wednesday, Thursday before, and they'll do a combination of building level and district level professional development activities for 2 days. And then the Friday is always off before Labor Day. That 4-day weekend is always protected. So that's what we've done. Our exams are usually that third week of January. And then the school year ends in that second week of June, which is like, I think this year is June 11th. So that's what we've done thus far. We have Christmas break, obviously, we have spring break. We do not have the midwinter break that some districts do. We have, we go to school during the winter, so.
Yeah, and I would just, a couple of things. For historical perspective, I believe I don't know how many years, but for a few years going back, 7, 8, 9 years ago, we did start before Labor Day. I think those 4 days. We switched to the start after Labor Day about 5 years ago or so, primarily because at that time we were in the midst of a lot of the bond projects. And so we made that switch deliberately because we needed as much time as possible at the end of the summer. I mean, I literally, I think Scranton got their certificate of, of their final approval like the Sunday before Labor Day a couple of, or 3 or 4 years ago. So part of the switch back then was driven because of the ongoing construction projects that we were having and the need to just have as much time as possible leading up to the school year. So I just wanted to point that out from a historical perspective. Just in talking to different people, and it's just really more anecdotally than anything, but it seems like there's sort of a dichotomy of viewpoints, and it's really driven, generally speaking, from the feedback I've received, is that the parents who have high school children who are, whether it's athletics or dual enrollment, whatever the case may be, where their programming or extracurricular are starting, or at the end of August, they're already here. Their preference would be to just start school. If they're here, let's get started. Conversely, it seems to be the elementary where their students don't necessarily have those formalized activities that obviously the high school students have. Their preference would still be to go after Labor Day. And so I get it from both perspectives. I understand, the desire, from the teacher's perspective. The lake water is warmer in the end of August than it is in the second week of June. But be that as it may, I mean, obviously there's a lot of competing considerations that we have to take into account. So any other discussion? No? All right. That moves us to item B, the athletic turf replacement.
I will start this
Mr.
one.
Jones.
Thank you. So this is something actually we are going to ask that the board will consider tonight, because as we've done our investigation of replacing the turf athletic fields, that lead time is become an issue. And if we waited until the next board meeting, we could miss our window of getting this done over the summer. So to give a little background, John Thompson has been doing some work on this with a purchasing consortium called Sourcewell. And because it is a purchasing consortium, they've already done the RFP process, so we can move forward immediately with their information if we choose to go that way. So we're asking that based upon that, you could consider, so we can get moving on this quicker, so we can get it done this summer. If at all possible, it's not a guarantee we get it done this summer, but if at all, we could do it this summer.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go right ahead. I was just going to ask if they could give some background on why
What is
we
the
have to do it.
specific ask, Dave? I mean, we were part of the dialogue with you and Mr. Thompson, but I mean, for the benefit of the public, what are you asking us for?
Replace one of the turf fields this summer.
Cost?
I don't know the cost. John has been working with Sourcewell to get cost. So it's based upon, they've done their bidding.
So the ask is tonight that we authorize the district to replace turf on a field, and we don't know what it's going to cost.
So, John, do you have the cost? We don't have it yet. You don't have it yet? No, I'm sorry. I thought we did. That's my fault. I thought we did. John, could we work with a not to exceed amount?
I shared this when we met. I mean, I really struggle, and of course, there's a whole board here that can share their opinion, but as someone whose children live on the turf fields 7 days a week across the whole district, all the fields, I really struggle to believe, and I've played football, high school and college, like I'm someone who loves athletics. I really struggle to believe the sky is falling if we don't approve this tonight. Like the turf field will be there 6 months from now.
So to let me clarify, I'm not saying that the sky is falling.
Okay.
I'm just saying we have identified that the window to get it done this summer is getting tight, and we're just asking for the consideration. This is not something where the sky is falling. It was just something we were going to ask your consideration, because if we waited until March, it would be probably too late.
Mr.
Just
Chairman,
for
they
this summer.
start
That doesn't mean
scheduling.
we have to
I'm
do it
sorry.
this summer.
It's, the contractors start scheduling for that right now. There's only a couple of companies that do it.
Oh, yeah,
It
of
doesn't-
course.
It's not going to change the world, that's for sure, but it allows us to get ahead of the game because they want to do Scranton first, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, John? That's the worst one? And then that would give us, we won't schedule the next until the next year and possibly the third. But to get this year going right now, that's what their ask is.
We don't know what the cost is.
We just have an estimate. right? 750
Yeah.
per field.
750,000 per.
Yes.
Can I ask why? I mean, I did hear, I think I heard that Scranton is worse than the high school. But I heard when I was out on the campaign trail this summer, I heard multiple people talk to me about the shape of the high school field and the danger some of our athletes are on for that field. And so that makes me very concerned if we're going to wait a whole nother year for the high school field. If they are both equally as dangerous, one's or they're both dangerous, one's just more dangerous, why are we waiting?
Scratch it gets used by a lot more ages, a lot more organizations, and it's just worn down farther than the other two. That's it. You got to pick one. We're probably not going to get more than one done at a time. That one's in the worst shape.
Can I just ask a question? Has there been like a formal evaluation? How are we rating this one's more dangerous than the other one and can wait another year? Because the high school, I'm not disagreeing with you, but the high school field gets a tremendous amount of traffic as well. So I don't know how, to your point, we can rank one over the other. And is there ever a possibility that we could just do them all at once for a month? And not do it year over year over year if they need to be done?
I think all those are good questions.
Mr. Strong's point that Mr. Jones answered, can we get through next year? Yeah, we can on all three fields. Okay. So we have the fields evaluated and we do a maintenance program every summer. So we get a very detailed report back from the company that does that field maintenance and restoration for us each summer. So, and each field's, rated individually. So with our three fields in pecking order in terms of which one is in the most need of repair, it would be Scranton, then it would be the main stadium at the high school, and then it would be the back turf of the high school. From a timing standpoint, yeah, our window's closing, but like I said, it's the choice is up to the board. If we push it a year, it means we're also going to push the replacement of the other two turf fields back as well. So what we're looking at is not trying to, when we put turf in, we did all three at one time. Okay, that was 11 years ago. Our programming and demand has grown over that time. So my personal preference, because you got to move all the spots around on the board, is to do one field as a standalone Scranton, and then package the two high school fields together, because you're going to save on mobilization costs. Not to mention, I don't think we could, if we're looking at this summer, we're not going to get a vendor or a site work contractor that's going to have that much flex on their schedule. So really one field is probably, and that's a push. We don't even know if we can get it done this summer, but from a strategic standpoint, that's how I'd probably approach it.
I'd just like to add that there's been a lot of discussion about the safety of the fields. I don't know that we're responding to an incident that happened in any way, shape, or form. It's been proven, I think, that perhaps in some cases grass is safer than turf fields. That's what everyone's talking about. However, we have turf fields. I don't find them to be dangerous at this moment. Of course, when they get more beads put in and they're fluffed up again, they'll be a little softer, which equates to safety on a field like that. So I just don't want everyone in the room and anyone listening to think that we're worried about somebody getting killed on our turf fields if we don't do it right away. That wasn't the situation. But if we wait too long, aggregate gets exposed and there's more possibility of kids getting hurt. But I don't see that as the case right now, but it will be soon.
I did hear a lot of concerns about specific safety, especially on the high school fields for football players, as they were getting ready for practice this fall. When I was on the campaign trail, that was a topic that came up multiple times, so.
John, I've told you in person, one-on-one, you have my unwavering support to have the absolute best world-class facilities that money can buy here in Brighton. But, you know, when Dr. Outlaw has the facilities team come in and they make a pitch to us to buy a electric van and it's discovered they haven't really gotten competitive quotes and there's no real formal proposal, you know, we ask them to come back to us with those details. And I think when we're talking about a $750,000 line item expense, it'd be great to, you know, come to this board with the facts, you know, and I think even a proposal on how to maintain the fields, not just this year, but in the years that follow, so we can, as a board, create funding mechanisms to kind of avoid this type of an ask, right? Where the funding is approved, and it's maintenance funds to support the maintenance of the turf surfaces that we have. So I guess, you know, I'm very supportive of ensuring we have great facilities, but I would love to see, you know, instead of coming in and saying we have something on our agenda for future action that we need to vote on tonight, or at least the ask is to vote on it, act on it tonight. I mean, it's a $750,000 expense and we don't even know what the cost is. Like, that's a pretty big deal. So my ask would be that the involved parties identify solicit bids, what's the firm cost, when can a contractor complete the project, and then come back with a recommendation with all those facts and let the full board vote.
I think one of the things that we need direction on from the board is, are we comfortable with using a consortium pricing mechanism? Or do we want to put an RFP out on the street, you know, as we've done on other projects? So for, you know, when we originally installed turf, that was an RFP process. And a lot of our larger projects tend to be RFP bid processes. It just so happens that the major turf suppliers, you know, whether that's AstroTurf or Shaw or Sprint Turf, or, you know, there's 3 to 5 players that do most of these fields across the country, that they are in partnership with these consortiums. So we haven't gone down that road before. You know, so I think that's really where, you know, we could use some direction. If we want to pursue the consortium stuff, or do we want to stick to an RFP bid process?
The point of the consortium was to save money because they're doing this bulk price.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, they priced it out, and it's just like, you know, when we use REMC for, you know, school supplies, that's one you've seen before come across. Same concept.
So just briefly, this was on for future action. Obviously, we talked about it at the facility committee. The intent tonight was to discuss the need and answer questions about this, and then to have a disclaimer that we're running short on time, that there is a time limit. If we wait all the way until March 10th, if the board wants to move, decision might need to be made before March 10th. That was kind of the intent here tonight. So with not having a number here, I would not recommend moving forward without a number. But know that waiting till March 10th, depending, I know the facility committee is going to meet to discuss this. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit more. We could give some guidance around the consortium versus RFP. But that was just the intent tonight, is to make sure we know that we're running short on time. If we do wait much longer, this summer is going to be out. It will be the next summer. So.
Yeah, I guess just a comment on the consortium versus RFP. As a board member, I don't want to dictate to you or anyone else in the administration that you need to use a consortium or use an RFP. I mean, what I'm seeking is confidence as a member of the public, right, representing the public,
I get it.
that when Brighton area schools spend $750,000, we're not doing it blindly, right? We all have confidence that the price we're paying is fair for the taxpayers in our district. That's all I'm seeking through this.
We'll come back with more information.
Yeah, and I guess as a follow-up to that, I mean, if the specific information is solicited from the consortium and we get a number and they say, but we're scheduling, we can't wait until March 10th. I think that's I think March 10th is our next meeting. If they say we need an answer by, February, 23rd or whatever the date, then communicate that back. We can potentially convene a special meeting that would be, specific to that topic and figure out a date that might work for everyone to, have a short meeting.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's what I would
I
say.
would definitely, I don't want to push it another year and push everything. If we're talking about one a year, which it sounds like that's the only way to schedule it, you're talking then about
I'd actually
another
try and
4
do,
years.
I'd try and do the 2 at the high school.
Well, okay, but 3 years potentially, so then.
Correct.
It's getting pushed even further, so instead of next year having the high school and the backfield being done, it would be an additional year. So now we're talking about 2 more full seasons there.
Correct.
So, yeah, I would be in support of doing that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add something real fast, John. When you're looking at the turf that you are going to be deciding between, is there any way you can provide us with some information on the different grades? As I discussed previously, my concern is with safety with the kids. So I just want to understand what the different grades are that we're looking at and how they, differ between and what we intend to put in the facilities.
Yep, we can absolutely gather that information for the facilities committee and or the board.
Thank you.
Each of those companies, it's kind of an a la carte. You can order, a little towards the bottom of the menu, you can order towards the middle of the menu, you can order towards the top of the menu. So right now, currently, we've kind of got each of those 3 items on the menu represented. With the main stadium, that's a higher grade turf in terms of it has a root zone in it, those type of things. It's a little more realistic to, grass. Scranton's kind of the middle of the road. It's a poly blend. And then the workhorse, and it's held up really well, honestly, is the field out back of the high school. So 3 different tiers, looking at our usage rates and those type of things, I think we'll need to make some decisions on, what's the best fit for our usage. So.
Before you sit down, Ken and I were talking at the start of the meeting. The changes you made to the PA system in the gym, incredible. It's like completely different listening, observing experience. Huge improvement. So whoever initiated that and whatever they did made a huge change. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Super noticeable.
I'm just the guy that picked up the phone. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm an audio.
What was wrong?
I'm not an audio
What did they do?
technician.
What was the problem? Like, what did they fix?
There's a touch screen, which is good and bad because it's a mobile unit. And so it has to go over a door threshold and those type of things. Sometimes that the movement of the unit itself jiggles some of those connections a little bit. And so.
Well, it's made a massive difference. So thank you.
Yep.
All right. That moves us to item C, Hawkins Playground Equipment. Dr. Alwa.
Okay, so we have a great group of Hawkins PTO members that have been working on a vision for expanding their playground. They have the oldest playground in the district. It's not super old, but they've been working to try to add some equipment there. And wanted to put on your radar, we're not ready yet with pricing and things like that because the PTO is working with Mr. Jones and our operations department on this. So we'll come back with some numbers. We'll share it with the facility committee. But we wanted to put this on your radar that Hawkins Playground Equipment is going to come your way. And we discussed in the facility committee the idea of some revenue sharing or cost sharing. The PTO has raised a certain amount of dollars, and the district would contribute some dollars as well. But we need to come back to you with precise numbers and whatnot, but wanted to put it on your radar over the next few years. And in March, we're going to talk about some operational projects, and we're looking at some investments in playgrounds across the district. But Hawkins is ready to go. We'd like to bring that to the board here maybe next month, and it might be the month after that, but we wanted to do that this summer. Okay. Any questions?
No, not, but I would just add, I know that in the past, I don't know if, I can't remember which elementary school was the last to get a new playground, but it was, the way it was handled financially was similar. There was a cost sharing. The PTO had raised funds, and then the district, I don't remember if it was a 100% match, but it was a combined cost sharing arrangement. So I would certainly want to see that approach continued through to Hawkins as well, from the board's support perspective. Yeah. Okay. All right. That moves us to item D, transportation fuel tank.
I'll
Dr.
take this
Jones?
one.
Mr.
So,
Jones?
It has been identified that the fuel tank at the bus garage has a leak. And so we're getting pricing to repair it and also a price to replace it. And so we will bring to the board that information so you can make a decision based upon what's a better idea to do, whether to be able to fix it or to replace it.
Now we're looking at replacing existing and/or putting above ground tanks, correct? I think that
Yes, yes, because there always is the consideration of doing it above ground or right now it's below ground.
Can I just ask a question? If you go above ground, what happens with the below ground? Those have to be mitigated? Are they buried? Like, what do you do with those tanks?
It is my experience that there are a couple options, and that would be something we would have to explore.
So that would be included in whatever the pricing was for the above versus below. Okay, thank you.
that process sometimes is as simple as flowable fill inside of it, in other words, filling it with concrete. But if there's a concern that you might need that to excavate that area in the future, that's no fun. That's a couple boards away, but it's still going to be somebody's problem. And there's a couple other ways you can get them cleaned out. There's multiple different ways to do it. And I know local Corrigan, who's been helping us a lot, they do a lot of that stuff too. So we have local experts that can help us.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, that concludes the for future action portion of the agenda, moves us into board committee chair reports, community recognition. Do anyone have committee report?
I have one I'd like to share. This past weekend, our Brighton High School Science Olympiad team competed at Frankenmuth, led by Shannon Pereira. The team scored second overall out of 30 teams, and I have a few students I'd like to recognize. Codebusters, Lydia Fabry, Nicholas Kafkakis, and Solora Walker placed second. In ecology, Lindsay Gowan, Chris Kafkakis placed third. Entomology, Sebastian Kozma and Grace Davis placed second. Experimental design, Lindsay Gowan, Chris Kafkakis, and Allison Young placed second. Forensics, Dan Belden and Hannah Heckel placed first. Andrea Batchelor and Abby Brown placed second. Fossils, Andrea Batchelor and Sutton Rose placed third. Microbe Mission, Nicholas Kafkakis and Ryan Michaels placed first. Robot Tour, Chris Kafkakis and Sutton Rose placed first. Tower, we had two freshmen that placed first, Elena Mullet and Leah Wyderko. Grace Davis and Ryan Michaels placed third. And then Write It, Do It, Solora Walker and Allison Young placed third. And I wanted to congratulate them on their successes for this weekend.
Here, here. Absolutely. Congratulations to all of them. Sure, I can.
I was present for the OIM meeting on this building. You may have noticed that it has gotten a lot warmer if you're walking upstairs and downstairs. They're very close to an end, and they're still on schedule to get it done this month in the next week or so. Just so you know that's going on. And one of my things, and it's kind of become all of our things, I attended the basketball games at the high school. And I'd like to report that the Hilton Choir sang the Star Spangled Banner for our varsity game. The high school concert choir now is on tape, actually on phone. I just gave them the recording. They were playing that. That's an amazing rendition, and it sounds awesome. They did that at the JV game. And I haven't been to all of them, but I've been informed that all of our elementary choruses have been performing at all of the winter events. So good to see all their talent. It was so cool to see. There's this group of kids at the end on the side that always comes to haggle with the other team, and happened to be, we were playing, that green school up the road. And with all that, they stopped and just hooted and hollered and screaming and yelling and whistling, and those little kids just turned red and we're having a great time. And I thought, that's what we're here for. So just wanted to share that with you. It's great.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. That concludes the Board of Committee Chair reports, community recognition. Our next meeting will be on Monday, March 10th, 2025. Mr. Stahl, do you have a motion?
I do. Motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing negotiation strategies connected to the BEA, VESPA, and DASHA bargaining units, and as much as the administration has requested, closed session.
All right. Motion by Mr. Stahl. Do we have support? Support by Ms. Tierney. Ms. Ackermight, roll call, please.
Mrs. Marks?
Yes.
Dr. Kraut? Yes. Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Storm? Yes. Mrs. Urbane? Yes. Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes. That passes 7-0. We will be now going into closed session because we have concluded all items on our agenda for this evening. When we come out of closed session, the meeting will be concluded. Thank you for being here this evening, and wish you all a good night. Sorry, here's that one. I'm going to about just that. Announce that we're done.
I'm not suggesting any of that. I don't do any of that, but. Right.
It's good day. Coach mom has significant health problems. So she's out of town.
you everybody again, because it's all happening at a time when everybody's new. And I think their thing was, oh crap, we got to do this now. Right. Because we're kind of on that too, if we're going to talk about bond and all, we got to do that. So we got to do that.
Okay, we are out of closed session, and that concludes the meeting for this evening. The meeting is adjourned.